It's Bible Club, it's Bible Club, it's Bible Club in our town. We're singing, we're laughing, let's get the word around. Folks are all excited, we are all delighted. It's Bible Club, Bible Club, Bible Club, Bible Club, Bible Club in our town. It's Bible Club, it's Bible Club, it's Bible Club in our town. We're singing, we're laughing, let's get the word around. We're all excited, we are all delighted. It's Bible Club, Bible Club, Bible Club, Bible Club, Bible Club in our town. So, some of you older ones, I want you to listen. Ian, I think you might know the answers to this question. And some others, Josh, you might know the answers to the question. Aiden, let's be quiet. So, our verse says, walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Can anyone tell me, let's just make it really easy, tell me something that we learned about this verse. Ian? Want? What is want another word for?
Lust.
For lust. Yes. The things that the flesh wants are the lust of the flesh. Yes. So this we might not have said this, but just if you haven't eaten in a while and you want some food, is that a lust of the flesh?
No.
Just because you're hungry? No. So what is the flesh? What is the flesh? This is a little bit harder. But Abby, what is the flesh? It's sinful things, right? It's not necessarily our skin, right? It's not our stomach, because our stomach is hungry. We should not want some food. It doesn't have to do with that. Josh? You guys settle down, okay? It has more to do with the things, the sinful things that our body and that our mind and our heart wants to do. Boys, I need you to stop talking. Okay? So I can separate you so you don't talk to each other if you need to. So, Aiden? Alright, so we have been talking about, kind of indirectly, or along the way, we've been talking about walking in the Spirit and walking in the flesh. And the main person in our story the last few weeks has been, does anybody know the name of the one that we've had the most, it's mostly been about him. His name starts with a J. His name starts with a J. Okay, we have a lot of people with their hand up. Let's have everybody say the name that you're thinking of at the same time. Let's see if it sounds like we're all thinking of the same person or not. Nicely, with a nice voice. When I say 3, you tell me the name that you're thinking of. 1, 2, 3. A lot of people said Jacob, and some said some others. I think I heard some James and some Joshua and some Jamshuas and whatever. It's Jacob. Okay? Remember Jacob? Yep, it was Jacob. And can anybody tell me something from this story, or from this picture, about Jacob? There's some things here that we would know about Jacob from this picture. James.
I remember when the father of the person that he wanted to marry, he tricked him to marry.
That's not in this picture. Hold up, hold. Don't tell me. We got a that picture's coming later. Can anybody tell me something that's in this picture? There's one of these is Jacob, and the other is somebody, and this is their mom. Anybody know anything about this picture and Jacob? Jacob's what? He's small? I don't think he's really small, but his brother was an outdoors man, right? His brother liked hunting and all that, and Jacob, he took care of the flocks, and he was actually a pretty strong man. Because but he didn't just live off the land. He had flocks and herds and did all that. Does anybody remember his mother?
No.
Does anybody remember anything about Jacob and Esau? They were brothers, but they were a certain kind of brothers. Anybody remember what kind of brothers Jacob and Esau were?
No.
Allie? They were twins. That's right. Did you get help with that? Oh, I thought maybe you remembered it on your own. But that's okay. That's good. We want some help. So they were twins, but who was older? They were born like on the same day, but one of them was older than the other one. Some more people remember that, right? Jeff, you haven't got the answer just yet. Who was the older one? Jacob or Esau? Yeah. Esau was the older one, and what had God told Jacob and Esau's mother? Remember he told her something even before they were born. Well, yeah. Actually, he said there's two nations within you. I think that's what he said. Anybody? Don't remember? Remember, God told his mother that the older one would serve the younger one, which isn't the way it normally was. So, let's see here. Who can tell me something that we know about Jacob from this picture? Yeah? Don't talk, just look. Even Miss Allie remembers. Okay? Joshua, what do you remember about Jacob from this picture? That's his dad. Yes. Okay? So that's his dad. Amberlynn? What do you remember about Jacob from this picture? What? He what? Okay. Abby? That's not in this picture. That's part of the story, but that's not in this picture. James? Yes, right here. Jacob is tricking his father. He's tricking his father. His father can't see, right? And he's tricking him into thinking that he is his brother, Esau. And why did Jacob trick his father? What was he doing? So he could get the blessing. Basically, what was he? He was stealing the blessing from his brother, right? He stole it. And so once he stole the blessing from his brother, was his brother just fine with that?
No.
Abby?
No.
Was his brother just fine with that? No, his brother was mad, wasn't he? And so his brother said what? What did his brother say? His brother was so mad, he said, I hate him, and you just told me it. The answer to the previous one, I'm asking you for the same answer. He wanted to kill him. And when his dad died, he was going to wait till his dad died and then he was going to kill him, right? And so, in order to save his own life, what did Jacob do? He ran away. He ran away. And we kind of said, we pointed out, when you do something wrong, running away is not the way to fix it, is it? No. So we shouldn't run away from the problems we created. We need to just make them right. We need to go to the person that we were wrong to and tell them that we sinned and that we are wrong and that we are sorry. Ask for their forgiveness. And we need to tell them we don't intend to do that anymore. Right? So, but Jacob ran away, and where did he run to? Where did he run to? He ran to his mom's hometown, and that's where he met his mom's brother. His mom's brother's name was Laban, and Laban had, how many daughters did Laban have? At least we know of. Whoa, look at that. Allie has 2 fingers up in the air. Is that right? 2. He had 2 daughters, and Jacob loved one of his daughters, didn't he? He loved one of his daughters. Amos? Rachel. Do you know anybody named Rachel? No, isn't your grandma's name Rachel? What's your grandma's name? Oh, Amos, you're playing dumb on me. Okay, we know some Rachels. Jacob loved Rachel. He loved her so much. And now Jacob didn't have 10 camels full of riches to give to the family, right? So what did Jacob do in order to marry Rachel? Abby, what did he do? He worked for 7 years so he could get Rachel, and finally he finished his years of service to be able to marry Rachel. And at the morning after the wedding, they do things different there. He woke up, and who was it? It was not Rachel, was it? It was the older sister. So what did Jacob do in order to marry Rachel? 7 more years. Then after 14 years, and was that a fun time in that home? 2 wives, and they were probably just bickering and fighting, and it was trouble. All that trouble. Why was Jacob having all that trouble in his life? This is what we talked about last week, right? Why was Jacob having all that trouble in his life? James?
Because he put all that trouble on his father.
He put trouble in his home, but who was in control of letting that trouble be in Jacob's life? Ian? God. So what was God doing to Jacob by letting that trouble come in his life? He was trying to help him. He was letting trouble in his life to help him. Do we ever have things that we don't like happen to us that really, maybe we get punished by our parents, and our parents are really trying to help us, but we've done something wrong, haven't we? We've done something we shouldn't do, and they punish us so that we remember not to do that the next time and the next time. And so then they are trying to help us by punishing us. There's a word for that. Does anybody remember the word that besides punishment, what that's called? Grounded. Okay, grounding is a form of this. We called it discipline. So God was disciplining Jacob. He was teaching him. So after 14 years, after 20 years, Jacob left, right? He finally left where his father-in-law lived, and he took his wives and his kids and all of his flocks, and he was heading back home, right? And what's at home? Esau, the one who wants to kill him. That's right. And what did he find out? Last week at the end of our lesson, he found out something about Esau. What did he find out? Cody, do you remember? Exactly. Esau's coming with 400 men with him.
And that's how he found out he wanted to kill him.
We don't know. He just knows. Jacob sent some people, said, go tell Esau I'm coming back. And they did not get to even talk to Esau. They just saw Esau and they saw how many men, and they thought, I think we just want to go back. So they didn't really talk to Esau. They just found out that he had 400 men. Where's my pictures here? Okay, so God sent some people to Jacob. It was angels. And Jacob saw angels. Now there's angels all over the place, but we don't see angels. But God allowed Jacob to see some angels and that were there to protect him. And Jacob knew it. He said, this isn't anything else but the angels of God. So they were there to help him, weren't they? But then Jacob thought some more and heard about Esau coming with all those men. Now what's stronger? The boys were being boys on the way to Bible Club, and they were talking about Avengers and all this superheroes and bad superheroes and good superheroes. But what's stronger, angels or superheroes? Angels. What's stronger, angels or men? Angels. And God sent angels to be with Jacob, right? But Jacob was thinking about Esau with all those men. And what do you think happened? He got scared. And Jacob decided. Jacob always had a plan, didn't he? So Jacob thought, he's going to do something. What are you saying he's going to do? He's going to sneak around and say, I'm going to try something. So first thing he did is he split all of them in half. He split them all in half. All of his herds, he split them in half, and said, if Esau comes on one and kills and takes all of them, at least the other half will be saved. If they come on that one, then this one will be saved. So he had that plan. Then he was thinking some more. Thought, well, maybe if I do this, and if I did like 200 sheep and send them to Esau, and right behind them 10 donkeys and send those to Esau, and right behind them 100 cows and send them to Esau, and right behind them 30 camels and send them to Esau. What was he doing? He's trying to soften Esau up. And he told the servants, when you see Esau, this is what you tell him. You say, this is a gift from Jacob. And right behind him, someone else come up, and what are they going to say to Esau? This is a gift from Jacob. And right behind him is another one, and what is he going to say? This is a gift from Jacob. And so what is Jacob trying to do? He's trying to soften up Esau. Is he trusting God? He's thinking of his own way, isn't he? He's trying to figure out his own way. Well, that night, he had everything lined up. He had all, the plan was all in motion. And that night, he went across a little river and he was laying down to sleep. He thought he was all alone. And I bet his thoughts were bothering him. He was probably thinking about Esau, right? Just Esau. The only thing he could think about was Esau. His thoughts were bothering him, and all of a sudden, a strong arm grabbed his arm. He didn't know what was going on. But this guy, whoever it was, wanted to wrestle. He started trying to pin him to the ground, and he began to wrestle this very strong person. The person didn't try to choke him, he just wrestled and wrestled. And Jacob, what do you do when somebody's wrestling with you? You wrestle back, right? He just kept wrestling. I can imagine they were tumbling back and forth, and pretty soon Jacob was thinking, this guy is strong. I don't know what's going on, but he is really strong. I've never met a guy this strong. So this is one of the ways we know that Jacob was a strong man. He could wrestle against this other strong man. He wrestled and wrestled, and I've wrestled before a long, long time ago. And when I wrestled, we wrestled for 2 minutes, and then we got a break.
I cannot do that.
And then we wrestled for 2 more minutes, and then we got a break. And then a little bit after that, after I had not wrestled for a while, I had to wrestle for 1 minute, and I could hardly even make it through 1 minute of wrestling. Jacob wrestled with this man. The Bible says he wrestled all night long. All night long, just kept wrestling and wrestling and wrestling. After a while, Jacob thought, this is a very important person. Kept wrestling, and after a while he thought, whoever this is, this must be God or a representative of God. I don't want to let him go. So they're wrestling and wrestling. Pretty soon, the person he was wrestling against touched him, like in the hip, and all of a sudden his hip was out of joint. Now, only God could do that, right? And if your hip is out of joint, can you wrestle anymore?
No.
You can't. But what do you think Jacob did? He couldn't wrestle anymore, but he wouldn't let go. He just hung on and hung on. And the man he was wrestling against, he just was determined. The man he was wrestling against said, let me go. Pretty soon it's going to be bright outside, and I need to go. And Jacob at this point, he knew that this person had power that only God could have. And Jacob hung on. He says, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. He knew it was God. He knew it was somebody that was working for God. So he wanted God's blessing. Is that a good thing? He said, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. And so the man that he was wrestling against said, Jacob, what is your name? Now this is kind of different. But when somebody says, when we say Josh, what do we think of? We think of Joshua, don't we? We think of everything that Joshua is. Don't we? Because his name represents who he is. When we see, when somebody says, do you know Ian? Do I think, oh, I know the word Ian? No, I say I know the person Ian, right? So when this man said, what is your name? He wasn't just saying Jacob. You know who Jacob was? He was a cheater, wasn't he? He was a thief. He was a sneak. He was a trickster. And you know what his name meant? The word Jacob means cheater, trickster. And when the man said, Jacob, what is your name? Jacob had to say, I'm Jacob. And the man said, from now on, you're going to be known as Israel, because you are a prince with God. Now, when you think of a prince, do you think of a cheater and a sneak? No. No. But God changed his name. God changed who he was. Jacob held on until the man blessed him. Then the man wrestled himself loose and left. And Jacob got up and said, I'm sure I was wrestling with God and I lived. Let's talk about it. And he gave that spot a special name. And from that day on, what does it look like Jacob's doing here? He's walking on a cane. Why is he walking on a cane? His hip is out of joint, right? For the rest of his life, his hip is out of joint. Every time he's walked, his hip is out of joint. What did that hip being out of joint remind him of? Of being with God that night, right? Yeah, it did. You know what? You think God took care of Jacob? He did. Jacob met Esau. Was Esau mad at him? He wasn't. God had changed Esau. And Esau wasn't mad at him at all. They met. Esau, they hugged because it had been 20 years since they'd seen each other. They were so excited. Esau was so excited to see all the different ways that God had blessed Jacob. He wanted to help him. He said, let's go and do something. And of course, Jacob had young children and said, we can't keep up with you. But we'll get together again. And so Esau went to his place, and Jacob went back home. And even really many years after that, their father finally died. Their father was not dead. Jacob's mother was dead. He never saw his mother after leaving. But his father died, and when his father died, both Esau and Jacob were there to bury their father. They had a decent relationship with each other from then on. And Jacob went back to the spot. Let's see here, see if I can. Remember this spot? Remember he was running from home and God spoke to him and he saw the vision and he anointed the rock with oil and said, this is the house of God. Jacob went back to that spot and he offered sacrifices to God and worshipped him there. God had taken care of Jacob, but God had to teach Jacob some lessons too, didn't he? So it is with us. Now, I don't think any of us are going to wake up in the middle of the night with a strong arm grab us and it's going to be God that wants to wrestle us, right? That doesn't work that way. It's not Bible times anymore. But he does send things our way to make us depend on him, to make us think about him, to make us obey him. So we don't do our own thing. We don't have our own scheme, our own plans and all of that. We should in our lives be doing what God wants us to do. And when we're going our own way, when we're doing our own thing, when Jacob had his own scheme, what was he doing? He was following the flesh, right? He was doing what he wanted. And are we supposed to do what we want? No, we're supposed to, instead of following the flesh, we're supposed to walk in the Spirit. And walking in the Spirit means obeying God. It means obeying the Bible, because in the Bible, God has told us everything that we need to know. We understand what it says, we do what it says, we can have a peaceful and joyful life. Even if we have trouble come our way, we can still have peace and joy in our life.